Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we are going to be tackling some pretty heavy stuff about politics. And for this one, we'll be taking a look at this article called "The Crisis of Modern Politics, a Battlefield of Egos, Not a Forum for Service."
Okay.
And also, we're going to be bringing in some different perspectives from the Baha'i faith to kind of see if there's another way of looking at things.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear about this because I feel like so often when we talk about politics, it just ends up being a bunch of complaining and criticisms. And this article seems to at least go a little bit deeper into, like why things are the way they are.
Totally. It's like it's not just pointing fingers. It's actually trying to diagnose the problem.
Right.
And I think one of the most striking things the article does is it uses this analogy of political parties being like little kids fighting over toys.
Okay.
Which, when you first hear it, you kind of chuckle.
Yeah.
But then you realize that's actually a pretty accurate description of what's happening.
Yeah.
And it has real world consequences.
Oh, for sure.
We see rising inequality. We see people losing faith in the system.
That's kind of disheartening.
Yeah, it's a little bit bleak. But when you were reading the article, what really stood out to you about this whole political war zone idea?
Well, the thing that really struck me was how the article calls out the influence of money and power in politics.
Okay.
It argues that wealthy donors and corporations have way too much sway over what happens, and that can end up warping policy decisions to only benefit a select few.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like if you're constantly worried about pleasing your donors, are you really representing the people who voted for you?
Exactly. And, it's not just a theoretical thing. The article gives this really disturbing example.
Oh, really?
About pharmaceutical companies that lobby to keep drug prices really high.
Oh, wow.
Even for life-saving medication.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is just wild to me. And it makes you wonder, who's really in charge here?
Yeah, it's a little unsettling. Yeah. I'm also curious about this connection the article makes between the decline of morality in politics and the rise of secularism.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's really that simple, or?
I don't think it's a simple issue at all. I mean, the article doesn't say that secularism is the cause of declining morality.
Right.
But it does suggest that it has, kind of impacted how we view good leadership.
Yeah.
And what that even means. And it even asks this question of can a society even thrive without some kind of shared sense of right and wrong?
That's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
And that's where the article brings in the Baha'i faith.
Oh, okay.
So it introduces Baha'u'llah, the founder of the faith, and it uses some of his writings to offer this different perspective on leadership. And there's this one quote that really jumped out at me. It says, "We perceive that which secretly and openly occupieth the minds of men. The rulers and kings of the earth are devoted to the pursuit of their corrupt desires and have turned aside from the face of God. They that follow them are in the depth of their hearts, even as beasts that graze in the fields."
Wow.
That's
pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a heavy statement. And what does that even mean?
Yeah. Well, it seems like he's saying that he sees what's really motivating some of these leaders.
Right.
And it's not pretty.
That's darn good.
Yeah, it's not exactly a glowing endorsement of the status quo.
Right.
It's a pretty stark contrast to the idea of leadership being a form of service.
Yeah, for sure.
So with all that being said, how does the Baha'i faith propose we fix this whole mess?
Well, the article explains that the Baha'i faith actually offers a totally different vision for governance.
Okay.
So it emphasizes things like service humility.
Okay.
And recognizing our interconnectedness as key principles.
And Shoghi Effendi, who was the guardian of the Baha'i faith, and this was a position that was responsible for guiding the community's development, described the state of society in some pretty bleak terms.
Oh, really?
He actually said, "The corrosion of the world's moral fiber is eating into the very vitals of the disintegrating peoples and nations. The recrudescence of racial animosities, political corruption, religious irreligion, and economic bankruptcy give to the observer of the international scene the impression of a steady and progressive deterioration in the structure of present-day society."
Wow, okay, so he's not sugarcoating anything.
No, not at all.
It sounds like he's saying things are falling apart at the seams.
Yeah, he was definitely very critical of the way things were.
Yeah.
But he didn't just leave it there. He also offered a vision for something better.
Okay.
He actually described the system that the Baha'i community is working to establish as Divine in origin, perfect in its operational methods, dynamic in the principles that animate it, efficient in the machinery it employs, and destined to embrace in the fullness of time the whole of mankind.
Okay, so he's saying that we can build something better.
Yeah.
Something truly transformative.
Exactly.
But what would that actually look like?
Right?
I mean, a political system based on service and humility?
Yeah.
How does that even work in practice?
Yeah.
Is that even realistic?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
And I don't think the article goes into specific policies or anything like that.
Go.
But it does offer this, call to action.
Okay.
Starting with each of us.
So you mean it's not just about waiting for politicians to get their act together?
Right.
It's about taking personal responsibility.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play.
Okay.
In creating a more just and equitable world. It might mean choosing leaders who actually embody these values.
Yeah.
Instead of just voting for whoever's the loudest or most charismatic.
Yeah, it's like we get so caught up in the rhetoric and the promises that we forget to actually look at their track record. Like, what have they actually done?
Exactly. It's about looking at their actions, not just their words. And another thing the article talks about is the importance of engaging in constructive dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe especially with people who hold different views than our own.
I know it's so tempting to just stay in our own little echo chambers on social media.
Right.
But I guess if we actually want to make progress, we have to be willing to listen to each other and try to understand where everyone's coming from.
Totally. And I know those conversations can be tough sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. It's so much easier to just shut down when things get uncomfortable.
It is, but I think that's exactly what the article is saying we need to do.
Yeah.
Lean into those difficult conversations and try to build bridges instead of just letting those divides get wider and wider.
I agree with that. I think that's really important. But, sometimes I just get so cynical about politics.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever feel that way?
Absolutely.
What's the point of even trying?
I think we all feel that way sometimes. It's totally normal to get discouraged.
Yeah.
Especially when we look at how complex these problems really are. But I think this article reminds us that even small acts of service can have a ripple effect.
Okay.
It might not feel like we're changing the world overnight.
Right.
But every little bit of kindness, every attempt at understanding, every effort to contribute to the common good, I think it all matters.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. It's like a reminder that change doesn't have to be this monumental thing.
Right.
It can be those small everyday actions that really add up over time.
Absolutely. And, the other thing that's important to remember is that we're not alone in this.
Right.
There are so many people out there who are committed to making a positive difference, who are working towards a more just and equitable world.
Yeah. And when we find those people, and we connect with them and we support each other, it's like our impact multiplies.
Totally. Yeah. It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, that's perfect.
And who knows? Maybe by embodying these principles in our own lives.
Yeah.
By showing up for each other and working together, maybe we can inspire other people to do the same.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to recap for a second.
Sure.
We've been talking about this article, The Crisis of Modern Politics.
Yeah.
A battlefield of egos, not a forum for service.
Right.
And it definitely paints kind of a bleak picture of where things are right now.
Yeah, it does.
All this ego, all this competition, this focus on winning at all costs.
Yeah.
But it also gives us this glimmer of hope.
It does.
This idea that maybe there's another way.
Yeah.
A way where leadership is rooted in service and humility.
Yeah.
And we recognize how interconnected we all are.
Yeah. And we start working together for the common good.
Exactly. And it might seem radical.
Yeah.
Or even utopian.
Right.
But I think it's a vision worth striving for.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to get caught up in all the negativity.
Oh, for sure.
But this article reminds us that we actually have a role to play in creating a better future.
We do.
It's not about waiting for someone else to fix everything.
Right.
It's about taking responsibility and starting to make a difference right here, right now.
I agree.
And speaking of making a difference, the article focuses mostly on political systems.
Right.
But what about the rest of our lives?
What do you mean?
Well, where it talks about the need for service and humility and leadership.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, couldn't we apply those same principles to, our workplaces, our relationships, how we interact with our communities?
You're totally right. This isn't just about changing politics. It's about shifting our entire worldview.
What if we just approached everything we do with a mindset of service. Like, what if we made all our decisions based on how we can contribute to the well-being of others?
Yeah, instead of just thinking about our own self-interest.
Exactly.
That's a pretty profound idea.
It is. It's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive started with politics.
Right?
But now it's like opened up this whole new way of thinking about life in general.
It's amazing how these things connect.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a reminder that real change starts from within.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, if by actually, like, living this way, you know, by being more service-oriented, more humble in our everyday lives, if that could actually contribute to, like, a bigger shift in consciousness.
It's a cool thought, right? It goes back to that idea of interconnectedness.
Totally.
It's like if we change our own mindset, if we start acting with more kindness and compassion that sends out these ripples, that can affect the people around us, and those ripples keep spreading, and they can create this more positive environment for everyone.
That whole butterfly effect thing, right? Like, even small actions can have huge unforeseen consequences.
Exactly.
So maybe even when we feel like our efforts are insignificant in the grand scheme of things, they're actually contributing to a larger movement of positive change.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like we're all part of this huge web of life.
Right.
And our actions, no matter how small they might seem, they do make a difference.
Yeah.
Maybe not always like a super obvious difference or an immediate one.
Right. But it's still there.
That's really empowering.
Yeah.
It's like instead of getting overwhelmed by all the problems in the world, we could focus on what we can control.
Right.
Like our own actions, our own choices.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, if we try to live with more service and humility, maybe we can inspire other people to do the same.
I love that. And you know what's interesting to me?
What's that?
Is that this whole idea of service, it's not just some abstract concept.
Yeah.
It can actually be really fulfilling.
Oh, absolutely. When we put our energy into helping other people, when we focus on contributing to something bigger than ourselves, it gives us a sense of purpose.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I've definitely felt that myself.
Yeah.
Like when I'm too focused on my own problems, I get stuck in this negative spiral.
Right.
But when I shift my focus outwards, when I find ways to be of service to others, it completely changes my perspective.
It's like it unlocks something inside of us. It helps us tap into our capacity for love and compassion. And it allows us to connect with other people in a much deeper way.
It's not just about fixing the world out there.
Right.
It's about transforming ourselves from the inside out.
It all starts with us.
Wow. This has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
We started by talking about the crisis of modern politics.
Right. All the ego, the competition.
Yeah, the focus on winning no matter what.
And then we looked at this other perspective from the Baha'i writings about leadership and governance.
And how it emphasizes service and humility and recognizing that we're all connected.
And then we ended up talking about how those principles can actually apply to every area of our lives.
Not just politics.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it has. And I have to say, I'm feeling super inspired right now.
Me too.
Thanks for being here and for sharing all your insights.
It's been my pleasure.
And to everyone listening out there, just remember, the power to make a difference starts right where you are.
That's right.
Don't underestimate the impact of your choices, your actions.
It all matters.
Your willingness to be of service to others. Together, we can create a world that reflects the best of humanity.
I agree.
A world filled with kindness, compassion, and purpose. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining your light.